When God shines through you, no explanation is needed. Your glow speaks before you do. If this resonates with your spirit, stay close. This message has been divinely orchestrated for you. Chosen one, this isn't just another video. This is a spiritual alert, a holy signal. You didn't stumble upon this by chance. You were led here. And if you're feeling it in your soul right now, don't scroll away. Something powerful is happening inside you, and heaven wants you to be aware of it. Lately, have you noticed that people are acting differently around you? Some are drawn to you without knowing why. Others seem unsettled or even jealous. You might think, but I haven't changed anything. Have I? And you're right. It's not about your hairstyle, your fashion, or your voice. It's something much deeper. What they're sensing isn't visible in the mirror. It's spiritual. It's divine transformation. You're becoming unexplainably attractive, and the world doesn't know how to process it. But here's the truth. When God starts to pour into you, elevate your soul, and surround you with His glory, your presence becomes electric, magnetic, radiant. And that kind of light shakes people, because it reveals what they've been trying to hide. You walk into a room and shift the atmosphere, not by what you say, but by who you are becoming. Before we go further, take a moment to bless this space with your energy. If your heart is aligned with this truth, type 777 in the comments right now. That's more than a number. It's a prophetic confirmation that you are ready to rise, that your spirit is receiving this in full alignment with heaven's timing. And to all of you who have generously supported this channel through super thanks, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Whether you've donated or simply shared a kind word, you are part of this divine movement. Your support keeps this message flowing to those who need it most. May God bless you 100-fold for every act of kindness you've given. Now, get ready, because what you're about to discover will not only explain why your light is growing stronger, but why they can't handle it. We're going to break this down into 7 powerful spiritual insights that will reveal exactly what's happening in you and through you. So, breathe deep, press in. This isn't just information, this is revelation. And it's about to awaken something in you that you didn't even know was waiting to be revealed. Let's dive in. God's chosen ones. You're becoming unexplainably attractive, and they can't handle it. You've become something that words can barely describe. You're no longer just walking into rooms, you're shifting atmospheres. But this transformation didn't happen overnight. It wasn't the result of an outer makeover, a new wardrobe, or flawless lighting. What surrounds you now is a glow that cannot be purchased or replicated. Why? Because it was forged in pain, bathed in prayer, and refined by divine fire. This radiance isn't artificial, it's holy. It's the result of nights when no one saw you breaking, yet you chose not to give up. It's the quiet strength you developed while you healed in secret, while you asked God questions that had no easy answers. Have you noticed how people stare longer now, how their spirits lean in even when their mouths stay silent? That's because they're sensing something heavenly on you, and they can't explain it. Just like Joseph, who was thrown into a pit and later wrongly imprisoned, you too have known what it means to be misunderstood, cast aside, and yet still favored by God. Genesis 39:21 reminds us, "But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love and gave him favor." Can you feel it? That same unexplainable favor is resting on you now. And it shows, not on your skin, but in your spirit. You didn't just survive the breaking, you were reborn by it. This glow is the result of every moment you chose to be still and let God speak, instead of reacting in anger or fear. You didn't beg for the spotlight, you sought the secret place. And from that hidden intimacy with the Father came the glow that now sets you apart. What if what people are drawn to isn't your appearance, but the peace you carry? What if they aren't captivated by your voice, but by the quiet authority behind it, born not from pride, but from surrender? There's a reason Jesus said in Matthew 6:6, "Go into your room, close the door and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you." That glow, it's your reward. Even now, some are asking themselves, why do I feel different when I'm around them? They may not know your story, but they feel your strength. And yet, how many could endure what you have and still emerge with grace, with compassion, with hope? The answer is few. That's why you shine. Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years imprisoned for standing against injustice, once said, "The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Chosen one, you have risen more times than anyone knows, and each rise carved another piece of brilliance into your spirit." Have you wondered why some can't handle your presence anymore? Could it be because your light exposes what they've been hiding? When Moses returned from speaking with God on Mount Sinai, his face was so radiant that the people of Israel were afraid to come near him. Exodus 34:29 says, "His face was radiant because he had spoken with the Lord." You too have been speaking with the Lord in silence, and now you carry the mark, not on your face, but in your energy, in your peace, in the stillness that confounds the restless. This glow, this holy brilliance, isn't just a gift, it's a sign. It signals that you've been called, refined, and set apart. It reminds others that heaven is real and that God still transforms hearts from the inside out. You didn't earn it with titles or applause. You earned it by saying yes to God when it hurt the most. So now, people will wonder what changed. They'll whisper, they'll watch, they may even distance themselves out of confusion or discomfort. But you will keep glowing, not to prove anything, but because you are now the evidence that divine healing leaves a mark. And that mark is priceless. Your face no longer tells the story alone. Now your entire being reflects the truth. The tension that once haunted your eyes has been replaced with a quiet strength. The storm no longer lives inside you. You've shifted from survival to sacred alignment. You're no longer scrambling to be seen or heard. You're resting in your divine identity, secure, still, and surrendered. And that stillness speaks louder than any shout. Have you noticed how people pause when you walk in? Not because of what you wear, but because of what you carry. Your energy is different now. It calms anxiety, disarms arrogance, and awakens curiosity. That's what happens when someone moves from self-defense into divine confidence. This isn't ego, it's evidence, and it's rare. The peace you radiate, the power behind your gaze, the unshakable presence you now bring, it didn't come from perfect circumstances. It was born through pain, cultivated in loneliness, and solidified through relentless faith. You didn't just make it through the fire, you let the fire make something out of you. Like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the book of Daniel, you went into the fire, but you were not consumed. Daniel 3:27 tells us that when they came out, there was no smell of fire on them. That's how God moves. You were refined without residue. You emerged without bitterness, yet burning with glory. Some people may assume your glow is the result of material success, a better job, a relationship, a new look. But what if they're missing the truth entirely? What if what they see is not a lifestyle upgrade, but a soul that has made peace with its past? What if your glow is the byproduct of forgiveness that was never asked for, prayers that were never praised, and growth that was never validated? There's a quiet revolution that takes place when you choose not to let your pain define you. When you sit with your sorrow and refuse to let it become your identity, something incredible happens. You become the kind of person who radiates without effort. Your strength becomes subtle. Your words become fewer, but more impactful. Your silence becomes sacred. Pope Francis once said, "The world tells us to seek success, power, and money. God tells us to seek humility, service, and love." Chosen one, that's exactly what you've done. You've stopped striving. You've stopped seeking applause. And in doing so, you've become someone the world cannot explain. You've become holy ground. Have you realized that your glow isn't meant to make others comfortable? It's meant to awaken them. Sometimes your peace will provoke people who have made chaos their identity. Sometimes your silence will expose the noise in others. But don't shrink back. What you carry is divine proof that healing is possible, that joy can follow grief, and that light can still emerge from darkness. Isaiah 61:3 promises that God gives beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. That is exactly what you now wear. Your joy is not surface, it's redemptive. Your peace is not passive, it's fought for. Your glow is not aesthetic, it's prophetic. And those who try to imitate it will fail, because this kind of radiance cannot be copied. It can't be faked, because it was never about what you added to yourself. It was about what God stripped away, the shame, the guilt, the fear, the wounds that once defined you. And now, what remains is pure. It's holy. The world may never fully understand what happened to you, but heaven knows. Heaven watched when you chose grace instead of resentment, when you released burdens you had no obligation to carry, when you kept showing up even when no one clapped. That's why your glow is sacred. It's not for show, it's a testimony. You are living proof of Psalm 34 verse 5. Those who look to him are radiant. Their faces are never covered with shame. Your radiance is not pride. It's the absence of shame. You now shine with the light of someone who let God finish what life tried to destroy. Your smile now carries history. Your silence speaks healing. Your presence brings peace, not because you've never been broken, but because you chose not to let the breaking define you. And every time you enter a room, the light you carry does what only divine light can do. It transforms everything it touches. You've come to discover something sacred. Peace is not passive, it is power. The more healing you've allowed God to work within you, the less you feel the urge to react, explain, or prove. You've tasted the freedom of no longer being triggered by every insult, every misunderstanding, every storm. That's because you've stepped into something deeper than silence. You've stepped into alignment. You no longer waste energy trying to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. You don't defend every decision or justify every step. Why? Because the validation you once craved from the world now feels empty compared to the affirmation you've received from God. Have you noticed how you've stopped needing to win arguments and instead started winning your peace? People are puzzled. Some are even frustrated. They approach you expecting the version of you that used to react, eager to explain, quick to anger, sensitive to every tone and look. But they find someone different now. Someone who responds with calm instead of chaos. Someone who listens more and argues less. Someone who no longer lives to prove, but to be. This isn't weakness, it's power. And it's the kind of power Jesus walked in when he stood silent before Pilate. Though accused and mocked, he said almost nothing. Why? Because he knew who he was. And when you know who you are, silence becomes your sword. As Isaiah 30:15 says, "In quietness and in trust shall be your strength." You've learned that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of divine clarity. Think of Martin Luther King Jr., a man who led not through rage, but through radical peace. He once said, "Returning violence for violence multiplies violence. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." Chosen one, your power now mirrors this. You carry a peace that disarms tension, a presence that confuses conflict, and a calm that silences chaos. That's not weakness. That's the presence of God moving through you. There was a time when your reactions were loud. driven by pain and insecurity. But now, you've been shaped by something higher. You've stopped chasing noise and started protecting your peace. Have you realized that your ability to stay calm under pressure is more threatening to your enemies than any retaliation? When they can't provoke you, they lose their grip. People don't always know how to interpret your stillness. To them, it feels unnatural, even intimidating. But what they're really sensing is the Spirit of God resting on you. Philippians 4:7 speaks of a peace that surpasses all understanding, guarding your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus. That's the peace you now walk in, and it goes before you like a shield. Now, when you enter a room, the temperature changes. It's not just your voice or your words. It's the stillness that follows you. The calm in your spirit speaks louder than anything you could ever say. Have you seen how people start to soften around you? How even those with hardened hearts begin to lower their defenses in your presence? That's because you are not just bringing peace, you have become it. And here's the mystery. You've become untouchable, not because you resist battles, but because you no longer fight them in the flesh. Your strength is not loud, it is steady. It doesn't yell, it anchors. You are not at war with the world because you've made peace with yourself, and more importantly, with your Creator. Jesus said in John 14:27, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives." What you carry is not worldly calm, it's divine stillness, and it cannot be shaken by gossip, betrayal, or fear. It cannot be taken by those who once had power over your emotions. You've realized that not every battle is worth your voice. Not every wound needs a response. And now your peace has become your secret weapon, the kind that speaks when you're silent, the kind that defends when you simply walk away, the kind that exposes others' unrest without you having to lift a finger. You are no longer the person who breaks under pressure. You are the pressure, the one who stands unshaken while others scramble to find balance. That's the transformation. That's the strength. And that's why the peace you now carry is not only rare, it's divine. The strength you now carry doesn't scream for attention. It rests in quiet authority. There's a calm in you that draws others in, yet leaves them puzzled. What they can't grasp is that your stillness is not weakness, it's not passivity, it's power in its purest form. You are composed, collected, and unwavering in moments where others unravel. But what they fail to see is what it took for you to arrive here. They don't know what was forged in silence. They weren't there during your internal wars, the moments when you doubted your worth, when you were tempted to give up, when every part of you was crying for relief. No one saw the battles you fought when the only audience you had was God. You faced demons within that others never knew existed. You chose healing over hiding, forgiveness over fury, and release over resentment. Have you noticed how your silence now carries more weight than your words ever did? Every tear you shed in secret was part of the refining. Every time you bit your tongue instead of retaliating, you were being strengthened. Every act of surrender became a stepping stone to this version of you. The one who walks into rooms with such steadiness that people stop to wonder, how did they become so unbothered? In truth, you didn't just survive the storm. You became the storm, and then you mastered it. You let the chaos break you open, not to destroy you, but to build a foundation within you that no force could shake. Like David facing Goliath, you stood before giants in your life, not with outward strength, but with a quiet confidence rooted in faith. 1 Samuel 17:45 captures this perfectly. You come to me with sword and spear, but I come to you in the name of the Lord Almighty. That's the kind of authority you now carry. Have you ever considered how your calm presence unsettles those who live in noise? How your refusal to be dragged into drama disarms those who once had power over your emotions? This is the fruit of inner victory. Your stillness is the evidence of a soul that has been to war and come back victorious. You've let pain teach you patience, and instead of growing bitter, you grew deeper. You didn't avoid the fire, you walked through it and allowed it to shape you, just as Jesus remained silent before his accusers. Knowing the truth didn't need to be shouted, you too have learned that real power doesn't argue. It stands, it endures, it breathes peace when others breathe panic. Saint Teresa of Avila, a mystic and reformer of the 16th century, once said, "Let nothing disturb you, let nothing frighten you. All things are passing, God never changes." You've come to live this truth. You are no longer tossed by the storms around you because you are anchored in the one who calms the storm. Your peace is not a mood, it is a mantle, and it rests on you like a crown. You've stopped living for applause. You've stopped bending under pressure. You've realized that peace is not a soft option, it is a spiritual strategy. And now that peace is your shield. You no longer respond to every provocation because you've learned that not every battle is assigned to you. The power you now walk in doesn't raise its voice, it raises the atmosphere. This kind of peace is sacred. It tells the world that your identity no longer depends on their opinion. It tells the enemy that you're no longer available for the chaos they use to lure you into. Philippians 4:9 reminds us, "The God of peace will be with you." And truly, he is. His presence is your portion now, and his peace is your compass. You are now grounded in a truth that the world cannot understand. You no longer chase clarity from people when you've already received it from God. You no longer seek approval when you've already been chosen. That's why you are unmoved, unshaken, and unbothered. Your stillness is a force, your peace is a weapon, and your authority is undeniable. The world may never fully understand the quiet power you now walk in, but they will feel it, and they'll never be able to take it from you because it was never given by them. There's something about the way you move now that commands attention without a word. It's not just your appearance, it's your presence. You carry yourself with quiet authority, not because you've been taught how to, but because life has refined you into someone who no longer begs for acceptance. You walk with vision, you speak with precision, you lead with clarity, and it's not pride, it's purpose. This shift is not about becoming someone new, it's about finally stepping into the person God always intended you to be. This shift is the fruit of a spirit of excellence. It's not about perfection or performance, it's about devotion. Excellence has become your default, not because you're trying to impress, but because you've learned who you are and whose you are. What flows from you now is intentional, not accidental. You've aligned your actions with your anointing, and that alignment speaks before you do. People feel it, even if they can't articulate it. There's a reverence that follows your presence, a stillness that commands attention. How is it that you've grown so confident, yet so humble, so calm, yet so effective? That's what makes you different. And it's not arrogance, it's divine awareness. Daniel in the Old Testament walked in this same spirit. Scripture tells us that he distinguished himself because an excellent spirit was in him. Daniel 6:3. He didn't seek recognition, he simply lived with discipline, wisdom, and unwavering integrity. And because of that, kings took notice. The same is happening to you. What once felt like hidden preparation is now becoming visible promotion. You've stopped shrinking. You no longer edit yourself to make others comfortable. Why should you? You've paid the price for your growth. You've prayed, endured, sacrificed, and healed in silence. And now, God is honoring the work done in the unseen. That excellence people feel when you walk in. It's not just the way you talk or what you wear. It's the evidence of elevation. Think of Maya Angelou, the poet and activist who once said, "Nothing can dim the light that shines from within." Her strength came not from seeking applause, but from standing tall in her truth. Like her, you now shine, not to be seen, but because the fire in you refuses to die down. Have you noticed how you no longer apologize for the space you take up? How your words now land with weight, not because they're loud, but because they're rooted. You've stopped watering yourself down to blend in. You're not here to compete, you're here to fulfill. You no longer move to prove. You move to manifest. That's what sets you apart in a world obsessed with noise. You operate from purpose, not pressure. This spirit of excellence you now walk in is not something you manufacture. It's something you embody, and that embodiment causes others to question themselves, not because you boast, but because your very existence calls them higher. Your grace under pressure, your unbothered spirit in the face of offense, your refusal to engage in petty things. These are all signs of someone who has graduated from survival into sovereignty. And still, you don't seek to dominate, you influence. You don't demand respect, you attract it. Because now, when you enter a space, your presence carries the weight of someone who knows their assignment. You aren't that person who once doubted your voice, unsure if you belonged. You're not hiding anymore. You've been called to stand, and you do it effortlessly now. Ephesians 2:10 declares, "For we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them." That's exactly what you're doing, walking in the works that were prepared for you long before others even noticed your potential. And the beauty is this: your excellence is not loud. It doesn't perform. It simply exists. You don't have to announce your worth. It's self-evident. And that's why rooms shift when you arrive. That's why even the most confident people pause when you speak, because they feel the weight of someone who has become, not just achieved. What you now carry cannot be faked. It cannot be bought. It cannot be copied, because it was forged in prayer, polished in obedience, and lit by divine fire. Your presence preaches, your silence teaches, and your walk testifies. This is the spirit of excellence, and you wear it well, not for status, but because heaven placed it on you. But let's be honest, not everyone will celebrate the rise you're stepping into. As your spirit elevates, so does the resistance. There are people who once walked beside you who are now watching from a distance, not because you left them behind, but because they chose not to rise. And now your light unsettles them, not because you've done anything wrong, but because your transformation reveals their stagnation. Some are still trapped in lower frequencies, drawn to gossip, chaos, and cycles of comfort. They don't know what to make of someone like you, someone who has dared to heal, to grow, to own their power unapologetically. It confuses them, it threatens them, and sometimes it even provokes them. Have you noticed how quiet some people have become since you stopped playing small? They may not say it, but some will try to pull you back into the shadows they're familiar with. They'll question your motives. They'll call your confidence pride. They'll challenge your boundaries as if your new standard offends them. But, chosen one, don't shrink. Don't soften your glow just to make others more comfortable in their own mediocrity. You weren't created to blend in. God didn't craft your spirit to be tucked away in the background. Matthew 5:14 declares, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." That verse wasn't written for the timid. It was written for those like you, those called to stand out, to lead, to illuminate paths others are too afraid to walk. Your excellence was never about superiority. It's about surrender. You shine not because you strive to be better than others, but because you've surrendered to the process of becoming the person God always knew you were. You shine because you've chosen truth over comfort, calling over conformity. Have you ever considered that your glow might be the very thing God uses to awaken someone else? That your boldness might break chains for someone still afraid to be seen? When you walk in your fullness, you give others permission to do the same. Your shine is not a threat, It's a signal, and those who are aligned with your purpose won't feel intimidated. They'll feel inspired. Think of Harriet Tubman, the courageous woman who escaped slavery and led hundreds to freedom. She once said, "I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves." Her light wasn't loud, but it was undeniable, and it exposed darkness. Like her, your rise reveals what others are still captive to, and while some will resist that truth, others will follow your lead. Excellence doesn't compete. It creates. It doesn't chase. It attracts. When you operate in this frequency, opportunities flow to you because you've become a vessel of divine order. You no longer beg for a seat at the table because the table was already set with your name on it. Psalm 23:5 confirms this. "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows." What's for you doesn't require striving. It requires alignment. That's the difference now. You've stopped fighting for space and started occupying it, and the right people will recognize your spirit, not because of what you say, but because of who you've become. Some won't understand this level of peace. Some won't know how to respond to someone who's no longer desperate for approval, no longer dancing for attention, no longer tolerating anything beneath their calling. That's okay. They don't have to understand, because your life is no longer about being understood by everyone. It's about being used by God. You now walk in the kind of excellence that draws attention, not to your ego, but to your essence. The world can't help but take notice, not because you're loud, but because you're real. And real is rare. You are not just rising, you are being elevated. And the vibration of that rise will naturally separate those who are meant to walk with you from those who are not. Trust it, protect it, and above all, never dim it. You've likely noticed by now that things don't quite happen for you the way they do for others. Doors open before you knock. Blessings find you without warning. People see something in you, even when you haven't spoken a word, and it confuses them. Why? Because when God's favor is on your life, nothing is fair by human standards. His hand doesn't follow earthly rules. It writes a divine script that bypasses logic, timing, and even human qualification. This kind of favor isn't earned through charm, education, or lineage. It is gifted. You didn't hustle for it. You were appointed to carry it. It was written into your story before you were even born. As Ephesians 1:4 reminds us, "For he chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight." Can you sense the weight of that truth? You were seen, known, and favored long before the world had a name for success. Now, as your life unfolds, people are beginning to watch. They see you walking through situations that should have broken you, and yet you remain standing. They notice that blessings seem to land in your hands before you even reach for them. And they try to explain it away. Some call it coincidence. Others whisper it's luck. But deep down, something in them knows this can't be man-made. Look at Joseph, sold by his brothers, enslaved, falsely imprisoned. But even in captivity, Genesis 39 verse 2 says, "The Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man." How does one thrive in prison? How does one rise from betrayal into leadership? It is favor, divine favor. And just like Joseph, you are carrying that same divine signature over your life. There's a reason people are both drawn to you and perplexed by you. You move differently. You carry a peace that doesn't crumble under pressure. Have you noticed how others panic at storms you seem to walk through with calm? That's not just your personality. That's God's stability operating through you. Isaiah 26:3 speaks to this. "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you." That's the source of your unshaken spirit. Even when the odds are against you, you rise. Even when resources are lacking, provision finds you. This is the kind of favor that stirs jealousy in some and reverence in others. The world expects you to suffer before you succeed, to be broken before you are blessed. But what they don't understand is that your process was already consecrated. You've already faced battles in the unseen, in the quiet, in the spiritual realm, and you've already won them. Author and speaker Joyce Meyer, who rose from a childhood of abuse to become a global voice of faith, once said, "Favor is when God makes people like you without a reason." That's what's happening to you. People are being moved to support you, uplift you, offer opportunities you never asked for, all because of the favor that precedes you into every room. But here's the paradox. While others see the elevation, they don't see the endurance behind it. They don't see the prayers you've whispered through clenched teeth, the tears you've cried behind closed doors, or the seasons where you kept showing up despite feeling forgotten. Your favor may look effortless, but it was birthed in obedience. And now, you're stepping into spaces that seem too big, too fast, or too good to be true. Even you may wonder sometimes, why me? Why now? But the answer isn't in your resume. It's in God's design. The same God who elevated Esther from orphan to queen, who positioned David from shepherd to king, is lifting you, not because of who you are, but because of whose you are. So when people marvel at your peace during a storm or your joy in a dry season, let them wonder. When they see you standing tall while others fall apart, let them ask questions, because your life has become a signpost pointing back to God. And that's the difference. It's not that you've mastered the world, it's that you've surrendered to the one who made it. This favor on your life will not always make sense to others. It's not fair in human eyes, but it is just in God's kingdom. And when you walk in alignment with His will, His favor will do what no amount of effort ever could. That's why your name is being spoken in rooms you haven't entered yet. That's why peace surrounds you like armor. That's why your light is too bright to ignore. And the truth is, it's not you doing any of it. It's God in you. And that changes everything. There is something sacred happening around you, chosen one. What rests on your life now is not ordinary favor, it is divine acceleration. This kind of favor doesn't just bless you, it transforms every space you enter. Rooms feel different when you walk in. Conversations shift, eyes linger, not because of your style or credentials, but because of the unseen hand of God that has marked you. You're not moving by merit alone. You're moving by grace. The favor upon you isn't something you could have earned through a polished resume or a perfect plan. It's not because you made all the right moves. It's because God placed His supernatural signature on your life and began orchestrating moments you couldn't have scheduled for yourself. You're stepping into things that others work decades for, and still, it's not pride that carries you. It's presence. Can you feel the difference between human striving and divine appointment? This favor causes something within you to shine, a radiance that cannot be explained, only felt. It's as if light flows from your soul outward. People notice you without knowing why. They're drawn not to your charisma or charm, but to the peace that wraps around you like a cloak. Philippians 4:7 describes it well. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. That peace is what gives your glow its power. It's not a reflection of perfection. It's the result of divine intimacy. You are walking in a beauty that defies the standards of this world. Not the kind shaped by features or fashion, but the beauty born from stillness with God. This inner light makes you not just attractive, it makes you unforgettable. But with that attraction comes something else: resistance. Envy does not rest far behind favor. As you continue to rise in visibility and influence, there will be some who cannot celebrate you. Have you noticed the subtle questions, the sideways glances, the quiet doubt in their tone? Even Jesus was not exempt from this. In Mark 6:3, when he returned to his hometown, they said, "Isn't this the carpenter? Isn't this Mary's son?" The people who watched him grow up couldn't handle who he had become. His favor offended their familiarity, and the same may be true for you. Those who knew you in your wilderness may struggle to accept your place in the palace, but their disbelief doesn't cancel your destiny. Consider the story of Corrie ten Boom, a Dutch Christian watchmaker who, during World War II, hid Jews in her home to protect them from the Nazis. She was eventually imprisoned in a concentration camp, but even in that place of death, she radiated light. Her faith, joy, and forgiveness in the face of brutality touched those around her, including guards and fellow prisoners. After the war, she traveled the world sharing her message of grace. That's what divine favor does. It defies the darkness. It turns broken places into platforms and pain into power. Just like Corrie, you carry a presence that speaks louder than your circumstances. People may not understand how you remain so grounded when everything around you shakes. They'll wonder how you keep your joy, even when adversity surrounds you. But they don't realize that what holds you together isn't your strength. It's your surrender. The God within you is steady, even when life is not. That's why you're able to smile through storms, stand firm in chaos, and keep moving forward when others would collapse. And yes, your glow may trigger insecurity in others. Some will question how you're succeeding without following the path they assumed you had to take. They'll doubt whether your rise is real. They may try to reduce your journey to a rumor or label your favor as unfair. But remember, God never asked them to approve it. Psalm 23:5 declares, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." Your elevation was meant to be seen even by those who don't understand it. Don't waste time explaining your favor. It was never meant to be explained. It was meant to be witnessed. You weren't created to meet their expectations. You were created to fulfill a divine purpose, and that purpose doesn't ask for permission. Favor is not a medal you wear. It's a mantle you carry. It doesn't exist to make you look great, but to make God visible through you. Your light is a testimony. Your joy is a sign. Your breakthrough is a message that God still chooses, still anoints, and still lifts people in ways that defy every earthly equation. So walk in it, not with arrogance, but with assurance, not to boast, but to shine, because someone is watching your life and realizing, maybe for the first time, that God is real and He is good. There's something about your presence that lingers long after you've left the room. It's not your appearance, your voice, or even your actions that captivate others. It's your mystery. In a world that constantly overshares, your restraint is revolutionary. You don't parade your emotions for attention, and you don't speak for the sake of being heard. You move quietly, deliberately, with a depth that's becoming increasingly rare. And it's this quiet depth that leaves others puzzled. They can't place you, they can't predict you, and that unsettles them. Many people live loudly so they won't be forgotten. But you've learned that stillness speaks in ways noise never could. When you walk into a room, people feel your presence even before you say a word. Why is it that silence becomes more powerful in your hands than speech in the mouths of many? Could it be that what you carry is not from this world? Romans 12:2 gives us a clue. It says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That's why they can't track your rhythm. You're no longer dancing to the music of this world. Your movements are guided by divine timing, not human impulse. You were not built for performance. You were formed for purpose. There's something sacred about the way you move, the way you speak when it matters, and the way you hold silence when words would be wasted. Like Jesus before Pilate, who stood quiet before his accusers, Matthew 27:14. Your silence often carries more authority than 1,000 arguments. What happens in you is not always meant to be explained. It is meant to be discerned, and that is where the mystery lies. Even your restraint is misunderstood. People expect quick reactions, emotional outbursts, or constant updates, but your spirit has been trained in a different classroom. You've been shaped in solitude, taught by the Holy Spirit in silence. Can they understand the nights when you said nothing because your soul was too full for speech? The moments when your spirit was communing with heaven while the world kept scrolling? There's an undeniable magnetism in someone who doesn't chase attention, yet constantly draws it. That's you. The mystery you carry wasn't crafted in a branding session or through curated posts. It was formed in the wilderness. Like Elijah in the cave, you've met God not in the wind, not in the earthquake, but in the still small voice. 1 Kings 19:12. And that voice rewrote your identity. Your energy speaks volumes, even when you remain silent. People sense your discernment, your ability to see what's not being said, and that unnerves them. But your sensitivity is not weakness. It's spiritual intelligence. It's the result of divine encounters that etched wisdom into your bones. And that wisdom cannot be taught in books or earned through titles. It is only received through pain, through prayer, and through patient endurance. Consider Pope Benedict XVI, a man of quiet intellect and deep theological reflection. Though not as publicly dynamic as some of his contemporaries, his words carried profound weight because they came from a life of contemplation. He once said, "The world offers you comfort, but you were not made for comfort. You were made for greatness." You've embraced this calling. You didn't choose the easy path. You chose the sacred one, and it has marked you. What others perceive as mystery is really spiritual maturity. It's the residue of time spent in God's presence, of secrets whispered to you in your lowest valleys. And because of that, your stillness challenges others. Not everyone is ready to be around someone who reminds them of what they're avoiding within themselves. But your presence is not meant to be explained to everyone. It is a sign, a signal, an invitation for those who are willing to go deeper, not just with you, but with God. The mystery you carry is not to be solved. It is to be honored. You've endured storms in silence, battles that no one else even noticed. While others smiled in your presence unaware, you prayed through wounds that tried to break you from the inside out. You didn't broadcast your pain. You brought it to the throne room. And now, what once weighed you down has become the foundation of your wisdom. That quiet grace you now carry didn't appear overnight. It was formed in private, through divine wrestling matches that changed your name, your spirit, and your walk. Some might interpret your quietness as detachment. They whisper that you're mysterious, guarded, maybe even aloof. But what they don't see is the fire you've walked through to become this focused. You're no longer easily moved by noise, praise, or opinion. You've tasted the difference between attention and anointing, and now you choose the latter every time. Do they understand what it costs to guard your peace? You've learned the spiritual art of setting boundaries, not out of fear, but out of reverence for what God placed inside of you. Your presence is not to be handed out carelessly. It carries weight. It carries purpose. Like the Ark of the Covenant in 2 Samuel 6, what you carry is holy, and not everyone can treat it with the honor it deserves. Can you sense how the fewer words you speak, the more closely people lean in? How the less you share, the more they try to peer into your soul? This isn't about mystery for mystery's sake. This is about stewardship. You've discovered that your presence must be preserved, not performed. It's not meant for crowds who clap at the surface but miss the sacred. That's why now, even your silence speaks. There's a power in you that refuses to beg for attention. It simply exists, calm, centered, unshaken. Jesus himself exemplified this. In Matthew 27:12-14, as he stood before his accusers, he gave no answer. The crowd was loud. The false accusations were many, but Jesus, in the fullness of divine authority, chose silence over spectacle. That's what you've learned too. Your strength isn't in the volume of your words, it's in the peace behind your eyes. You don't need to defend yourself when God has already validated you in secret. And now, chosen one, you walk powerfully, but without noise. You move not for applause, but with prayerful precision. Every step is covered in discernment. Every relationship you allow has passed through the filter of spiritual wisdom. Every door you open has been examined under the light of divine purpose. What guides you now isn't emotion, it's revelation. Think of Cardinal Robert Sarah, a man of great silence and contemplation. Known for his deep spiritual discipline and reserved demeanor, he once said, "Silence is not an absence. On the contrary, it is the manifestation of a presence, the most intense of all presences." You carry that kind of presence now, one that disrupts the shallow, one that awakens the sleeping, one that draws the right souls in while keeping the wrong ones out. Your mystery, then, is not a mask, it's a mantle. It shields you, elevates you, and reveals you only to those who are spiritually equipped to recognize who you are. That's why not everyone can handle your silence. It exposes shallowness. It reveals insecurity. But for those with eyes to see, your quiet strength is a lighthouse in the fog, a guide, a sign, a confirmation. And here lies the divine paradox. The less you explain yourself, the more others are drawn to understand you. Not because you're trying to be chaste, but because you've become a living invitation for something deeper, something real, something sacred. You don't move to impress anymore. You move with intention. You don't speak to fill space. You speak when God gives you something worth releasing. And that mystery you carry, it's not for decoration, it's for protection. It's your shield, your filter, your divine compass. It has saved you from countless counterfeits and opened doors that only God could. So walk on, chosen one, quietly, powerfully, purposefully. Your presence is doing more than you realize. There is something shifting in your presence, and others are beginning to notice it, but they can't quite explain it. You're becoming unexplainably attractive, but not in the way the world defines beauty. This isn't about flawless skin or a symmetrical face. No, what's drawing others toward you is something deeper, something sacred. It's a beauty born not in the spotlight, but in the secret, painful places you've dared to visit within yourself. You've gone where most fear to tread, into the hidden chambers of your soul, the ones echoing with old wounds, shameful memories, and silent grief. But instead of running from them, you sat with them. You didn't numb yourself or pretend the darkness wasn't there. You faced it, and in doing so, you invited God into places that were once ruled by pain. That's what makes your beauty different. It's not curated, it's cultivated. It's not painted on, it's risen from within. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." You allowed him to draw close, and now your soul has been touched by heaven, and it shows. Have you noticed how peace has replaced the performance? How confidence has replaced the need to be chosen by others? That's because you've stopped seeking love to complete you. You've realized you already are love. You are made in the image of the one who is love itself. 1 John 4:8. The emptiness that once echoed inside has been filled, not by attention or approval, but by divine assurance. And because of that, your healing now radiates. It's not in the clothes you wear or the style of your hair. It's in the softness of your voice, in the quiet calm behind your eyes, in the way you hold space for others, without needing anything in return. Even when life swirls around you in chaos, you no longer break the way you once did. Not because the storms have stopped, but because you've been rebuilt to withstand them. There's beauty in how you've stopped hiding your scars. You've turned them into something holy, like Jesus after the resurrection, who said to Thomas in John 20:27, "Put your finger here, see my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side." He did not hide his scars. He used them to prove the victory. And now you do the same. Your scars are no longer signs of shame. They are signs that you survived, signs that you transformed. Consider the artist Frida Kahlo, known not just for her stunning artwork, but for the way she channeled her physical and emotional pain into raw, honest beauty. She once wrote, "I am not sick, I am broken, but I am happy as long as I can paint." Like her, you've turned your suffering into sacred expression, not through painting perhaps, but through your peace, your kindness, your ability to walk with dignity, even after what tried to destroy you. You don't pretend to be flawless. That mask has long been discarded. Instead, you've made peace with your imperfections, and in doing so, you've discovered what many never will. That wholeness is not the absence of brokenness, but the willingness to embrace every cracked piece with love. Could that be why people are so drawn to you now? Is it possible that your healed places are calling others home to their own? The truth is, the light you now carry didn't come cheaply. It was purchased with surrender, paid for with obedience, and nurtured through countless moments of silent courage. You've chosen truth over illusion, wholeness over performance, restoration over resentment. And that choice has made you radiant. This is not the glow of someone untouched by pain. This is the glow of someone who walked through fire and came out purified. The glow of someone who wept on the floor and still rose with grace. The glow of someone who let go of needing to be seen and now cannot be ignored. You didn't just survive, you became. And that is beautiful. Healing has completely changed the way you move, not just physically, but spiritually and emotionally. You walk differently now, not to impress, but with grounded purpose. Your heart, once fragile and guarded, is now soft with compassion, yet firm in discernment. You no longer say yes out of fear of rejection, or no from a place of guilt. You've learned to respond from wholeness, not woundedness. What once triggered you now teaches you. What once drained you no longer has access. You've discovered the sacred balance between loving others and loving yourself. You no longer lose yourself in people. You meet them where they are without compromising who you are. You give without feeling depleted. Because now your giving flows from overflow, not emptiness. This kind of clarity, this kind of maturity, it's rare. And rare has always been magnetic. Isn't it true that what's uncommon often captivates the deepest parts of us? Your healing has also sharpened your vision. You don't just see with your eyes, you perceive with your spirit. You no longer look through a lens clouded by old pain or unresolved grief. God has cleansed your sight. You see red flags before they even rise. You pick up on energy in silence. You read intentions in the spaces between words. That insight isn't something that can be taught in books. It was carved into your soul through sacred solitude and the fires you've walked through. Proverbs 3:21 says, "My child, do not lose sight of sound judgment and discernment. Hold on to them. You've held tightly to these gifts, even when the cost was isolation. And now you carry a wisdom that speaks before you open your mouth. You've become a presence of discernment, a vessel of knowing. And you're no longer desperate for love, because you've become love itself. You've become your own sanctuary, a safe place for your spirit to rest. You no longer chase validation, you radiate it. You can laugh without anxiety choking your joy. You can cry without shame clouding your soul. You've embraced all the layers of who you are, and now you live with unapologetic depth and unwavering peace. People are drawn to you, not because you're loud or showy, but because you shine from within. They feel something when they're near you, something they can't explain. Could it be that they're encountering healing itself through your presence? Could it be that your life is preaching a sermon you never had to speak? You are the evidence that inner work produces outer glory. You are the testimony that soul transformation changes everything. Your glow didn't come from the surface, it came from surrender. From the moment you stopped holding on to what hurt you and began reaching for what was healing you. From the days you cried out to God and trusted Him to do in silence what others would only understand in hindsight. Like Ruth, who remained faithful through grief and loss and was later honored and elevated by divine favor, you too stayed the course. Ruth 2:12 declares, "May the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." That reward is now unfolding, not in wealth alone, but in wisdom, peace, and radiant presence. Think of Maya Angelou, the poet and civil rights activist who turned trauma into timeless truth. She once said, "We delight in the beauty of the butterfly, but rarely admit the changes it has gone through to achieve that beauty." Like her, your transformation didn't come without pain, but now you are soaring. Your beauty now is not just physical, it's elemental. It's in your presence, in your posture, in the quiet strength you bring to every space you enter. You no longer wear masks to be accepted. You no longer shrink to be safe. You bloom freely, fully, and fiercely from the inside out. And though others may not understand what has changed, they can't deny that something about you feels divine. They'll say, "You're glowing," or "You seem different," without knowing the countless silent hours God was reshaping you while no one else was watching. That glow, it's healing. That light, it's peace. That difference they can't explain. It's the quiet, powerful result of the divine hand of God working in and through you. While the world overlooked you, heaven was perfecting you. Let's be honest, your rise is not being celebrated by everyone. As your light grows stronger, some eyes start to squint. Not every smile directed your way carries sincerity. Not every voice that once applauded your struggle will cheer for your success. And that's not because you've done anything wrong. It's because you're becoming something they no longer recognize, and deep down, something they secretly fear. Your peace is provoking. Your glow is disruptive. Your elevation is unsettling, not because of what you lack, but because of what you've gained. And what you've gained is something many have been unwilling to fight for within themselves. Healing, clarity, confidence, purpose. These aren't just qualities, they're reflections of your obedience to God's refining process. And when you carry something divine, it's bound to irritate what's still broken in others. There will be those who look at your life and see it as a mirror, not a celebration. And what they see in that mirror isn't you. It's the parts of themselves they've refused to face, the bitterness they never released, the dreams they abandoned, the work they were too afraid to do. Is it any wonder why your rise feels like a rebuke to them, even when you've said nothing at all? John 3:20 tells us, "Everyone who does evil hates the light, and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed." You've become that light now. You don't shine to condemn, but your radiance reveals. Your very presence, chosen one, calls others to accountability. And not everyone is ready to answer that call. The higher God lifts you, the thinner the air becomes. Not everyone can breathe at the altitude you're rising to. Some relationships will feel strained, not out of conflict, but out of spiritual misalignment. Some will silently slip away, not because of betrayal, but because they were only assigned to the version of you that existed before the breakthrough. And you'll start to see it clearly. The ones who once clapped when you were crawling, but now grow quiet as you run. Why? Because your rise magnifies their hesitation. Your boldness amplifies their fear. Your peace makes their unresolved chaos impossible to ignore. Even your joy can feel like a confrontation to someone who hasn't allowed themselves to feel free in years. Do you see now why the calling on your life requires courage? Why God often isolates you before He elevates you? He's not being cruel, He's being kind. He's making sure you're strong enough not to shrink when others can't stretch. He's teaching you that your value isn't measured by acceptance, but by alignment. And alignment always comes with sacrifice. Think of David, who, after being anointed king, didn't immediately receive a crown, but opposition. Saul, who once embraced him, grew increasingly threatened by his anointing. 1 Samuel 18:9 says, "And from that time on, Saul kept a close eye on David." Sometimes the very people who once welcomed your presence will begin to monitor you out of insecurity, not celebration. Not because you changed for the worse, but because they never expected you to rise above them. Even in today's world, people like Bishop T.D. Jakes have spoken about this truth. He once said, "People who are attached to your history may not be able to handle your destiny." And now you are living that very reality. Some can only understand you when you're struggling, but they become strangers to your success. But here's what you must never forget. You were not chosen to blend in. You weren't called to keep others comfortable. You weren't set apart to remain small so others feel secure in their stagnation. You are not here to dim your light for those who refuse to adjust their eyes. Isaiah 61 speaks to your moment now. "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." You were chosen not just to rise, but to shine, to reflect glory, not guilt, to walk in favor, not fear, to embrace your calling, even when others misunderstand it. So stand tall, even when others shrink back. Walk boldly, even when others whisper. Shine unapologetically, even when others shield their eyes. Because the light in you is not for decoration, it's for direction. And though not everyone will clap, heaven is still cheering. And that is more than enough. Your growth is not ordinary, it is sacred. Every step you've taken, every layer you've shed, every burden you've released has been part of a divine orchestration. Your rise isn't a random stroke of luck. It's a result of spiritual alignment. And the favor now resting on your life, it comes from heaven, not human hands. The light you carry is not a trend or a performance. It's a sign of transformation. And while others may try to label it, contain it, or control it, it was never theirs to manage. It is yours to protect, yours to embrace. As your light increases, some will try to draw near, not to celebrate you, but to contain you. Their smiles may hide envy. Their questions may mask judgment. Some will pretend to cheer, but in secret, they're waiting for you to fall. They'll challenge your intentions. They'll misread your silence as pride. But what they fail to realize is this: you're not distant, you're focused. You're not arrogant, you're aligned. You're not lost in self, you're surrendered to assignment. And that assignment does not require explanation, it requires elevation. Nehemiah, while rebuilding the wall, faced endless distractions, insults, and false accusations. But he responded in Nehemiah 6:3 with power and precision. "I'm doing a great work, and I cannot come down." That is where you stand now. You are doing a great work, and you cannot come down to explain your light to those who are comfortable in the shadows. Let them watch. Let them whisper. Let them scroll through your story and wonder how you're still standing, how you're glowing in a season that should have broken you, how your joy has not evaporated, how your fire didn't die in the storm. Let them sit in confusion, because they were never with you in the valley. They didn't hear the prayers you whispered through tears. They didn't see the spiritual warfare that nearly consumed you. They didn't pay the price, so they cannot measure the weight of your rise. Psalm 23:5 reminds us, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." God didn't remove the enemies. He promoted you in front of them. He let them stay, not to destroy you, but to witness His glory upon you. And now that table is being set. Your seat is secure, your cup is overflowing. You are no longer begging for crumbs, you are carrying the feast. So no, not everyone will handle your rise. But hear this, you were not called to carry their discomfort. You do not need to shrink so others can stay stagnant. You do not need to soften your glow to make others feel okay with their lack of healing. You did not survive hell just to dim your light for people still dancing with their demons. Keep rising, keep glowing, keep honoring the God who pulled you out of the ashes, placed his breath in your lungs, and crowned you with strength. You've been raised not for vanity, but for victory. You are not just physically attractive, you are spiritually magnetic. There is a gravity to your soul now, an undeniable force. Your presence carries power, peace, and authority. People may pretend not to see it. They may downplay it, dismiss it, or avoid it altogether. But even in silence, you command attention, not with arrogance, but with authenticity. Like Queen Esther, who walked into a throne room she was never expected to enter and shifted the fate of a nation, you now walk with divine purpose. You were chosen for such a time as this, and when God appoints you, no amount of resistance can reverse it. So, stand tall, stay unshaken, let the crown sit firmly on your head, and never apologize for the glory that follows those who've walked faithfully through fire. As we bring this message to a close, I want you to remember one thing: God's chosen ones. Your transformation is not just a physical one, but a spiritual awakening. You are becoming more than just attractive in the eyes of those around you. The beauty that emanates from you goes deeper than anything the world can understand. It's the divine light within you that others feel, even if they can't put it into words. They may be confused by your glow, amazed by your presence, and unsure of how to handle the energy you now carry. But here's the truth. This is the reflection of God's purpose in your life, a divine calling that cannot be explained away by worldly standards. In every moment that someone questions your rise, your purpose, or your attractiveness, remember that you are walking in God's divine favor. This is a favor that cannot be denied, a purpose that cannot be thwarted. The closer you draw to God, the more his light shines through you, making you radiant in ways that people can't understand but are magnetically drawn to. And this is just the beginning of what God has in store for you. If you feel the presence of God through these words, I invite you to support this channel through super thanks. Your generosity, whether it's a small gift or a larger one, goes a long way in allowing us to continue sharing these empowering messages with you. Thank you to each and every one of you who donates, and thank you to all of you for your unwavering support. Your presence here is a blessing. If this message resonated with you, I encourage you to give this video a thumbs up, and please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Stay connected as we continue to explore how you are divinely chosen and set apart. Your journey is a testimony of God's greatness, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this message. Drop a comment below. Also, share this video with anyone who needs to know that they are divinely chosen and purposefully placed in this world. May God bless you beyond measure, and may his light continue to guide your path. You are becoming more than you ever imagined, and the world is about to witness just how powerful and beautiful God's chosen ones truly are. Stay blessed.